Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with Matt, Adam, Brian, Doug, and Freddy, where they discuss everything that matters in today's fire service. Now let's get to the show.
The one that gets the 30 seconds before and after.
It's already there.
Clip it.
Look at the confusion on Matt's face. He's like, what? There's a button?
No, dummy.
Oh, I heard that.
No, dummy. Didn't he say it was like Q or something?
All right, I clipped it. Relax.
Yeah, is that what it's called? Clip
No.
it?
Yes.
What do you have
No
to
relaxing.
You can't do it.
No, but the host can. I thought he said he was
It just says mark clip.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, do that.
We are
Hey,
winning
good
here
to-
today, folks. We are winning
good thing-
here.
Good thing that's not going to his head. You hear Matt,
Oh,
he's like, you can't do it.
Anthony
So
Richardson just got
cheesy.
mushed in the face.
Oh, my
Yoink.
gosh. What are we going to talk about today?
So
I don't know.
today,
I don't know what we're doing right now.
today we're going to talk about promotion. It's that time of year, in my department anyway, usually in the fall. We are going to talk about the promotional process and how it's handled at your department across the country, different areas of the world, that kind of thing. Maybe the fellow in Portugal can chime in and tell us how
That would be cool.
how they do things. So I will start off this thing. So we're in the heat of it right now for our lieutenants list. So each year the department. I've never tested, and I don't think I ever will. But each year the department projects how many promotions they're going to need, and then they add 10, and that's how many they take on the list. So if they predict 5 vacancies for the year for retirements, or which obviously captains promote, that's going to make a lieutenant vacancy, that kind of thing. So if it's 5, they'll put 15 on the list. Touchdown Colts. So what happens is, depending on the amount of people, they'll do a pre-test to kind of cull the herd a little bit, to make that list a little bit smaller. Then they go to the scenario stuff, and they have a written assignment or a project they have to do. And then when all that's said and done, everybody gets scored, and you get points for your seniority, you get points for a degree, you get points for being a paramedic, you get points for various things, and those all go into your performance review of how well you did on the exam. What happens then is they rank 1 through 15 chronologically, but they take the top 5, and when the list comes out, they list them. I don't know if it's alphabetically or randomly, but the top 5 are not chronological when the list comes out. They don't tell the top 5 who is the top 5. Though they know they're in the top 5, but they don't know if they're 1 or 5, because it doesn't matter. Once you get to the top 5, everybody in the top 5 is interviewed by the fire chief, and anybody in the top 5 can get promoted. It's not necessarily the first person. So when you're number 6 through whatever, we'll say 15 in this case, are ranked chronologically on how they scored and what their total points were. Once somebody in the top 5 promotes, number 6 moves up, everybody else just ding, ding, ding up the ladder, right? Again, once you're in the top 5, everybody gets interviewed by the fire chief, and they can pull anybody from that top 5. So that's why they don't list those 5 in order. And like I said, once one gets the call, everybody else moves up 1. And typically anybody that's on the list if there's an acting spot that might need to be filled, they'll put one of the guys on the list in it to see how they're going to perform, especially if in the top 5, to see how they're going to perform as an acting lieutenant before they jump in the head first and say, hey, here's
Doug,
your raise and your bar.
before we chime in, can I ask you to add something to that?
Yeah.
And then maybe you guys can go around. What makes you eligible to be on the list according to your department?
So in order to take the test for lieutenant, I feel like it's 5 years of experience, and you have to have 2 years as an acting officer, I believe. Again, I've never tested, so I've never read the entire process of what's involved. I think it's 5 years minimum experience and 2 years as an acting officer.
And so
many college credits. It's, lieutenant, I think, is 40 maybe college credits. And then to be a captain, you have to have a bachelor associate's degree, I believe. And then battalion chief is bachelor's or above. It may be master's. I think it's bachelor's.
And so for that, writing in officer, or acting officer, is there, we call it a task book, but is there some type of checkoff? And if so,
Yes.
what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, we have a task book for everything. Acting officers, truck operators, tanker operators, brush truck operators, the big ass fan, the boats, you name it, we got a task book for it. So in order to be an acting officer, you have to have Instructor 1, which is a Virginia Department of Fire Programs class. You have to have Officer 1, which is also another VDFP class, and a certain other little criteria. Things have changed as our development program has advanced over the years. When I got my acting officer 8 years ago, I had to have a list this long of classes, so many different points of things. Now it's not quite as detailed. We took away a lot of those tertiary interdepartment classes that were just like mundane, report writing, that kind of stuff. Like what? Like we write those every day. But yeah, there is a task book for acting officer that you have to do, and then you have to do a 10-day apprenticeship before you get cut loose to ride the right seat. And your current officer can say, all right, I'm going to extend this by 5 days, or hey, I don't think you're ready right now. Let's give it some more time, that kind of thing.
That's pretty cool.
But typically, guys who are interested in promoting will make it known, and they're going to, like me, I'll defer to them a lot of times if I'm in that situation of, hey, who's riding the seat today? Well, look, man, if you're trying to get promoted, bro, by all means, ride the seat. You know, get more time for you. Like I said, I'm allowed to ride it because I've been doing it for 8 years and I've got all my paperwork done, but I'll defer to them in a heartbeat, man. Like, especially being a paramedic. I mean, the chances of me jumping off the engine and riding are greater. So take the seat, bro. That's fine. Go ahead.
Freddie, how about you and your department where you're at?
Hold on, I muted you.
You muted Freddie?
Yes, because he was clicking and clack with the thingamajigger.
Unbelievable.
Clickety clack with a thingamajigger.
You know what? On my department, nobody promotes. Everybody's just a jerk. So move on.
Oh, damn, dude.
Hit the mute button and move on.
So I've had a unique opportunity to be on 2 different departments. Both of them are kind of similar. My first department was we would maintain a list that would last for 2 years, and you had to meet certain eligibility to be able to even test to be on that list. And that was for lieutenant, captain, assistant chief, and chief. And then after 2 years, whether you promoted off of it or not, we just retested. On my current department, we do not maintain a list at all. It is just once it has been identified that somebody is going to leave, then they kind of start that process. Now with
can I chime in real quick, Freddie?
Sure.
I should have covered that. Our list goes for 1 year. It's September to September, and when it comes time again, if anybody's not promoted, the entire process starts over no matter who's on the list. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
You brought that up and it made sense to me.
So, what? I forgot where I was.
I'm sorry, I'm an idiot.
No, you're good. So my first department, what would happen is, you would get your score for your test, and it would be out of 80. And then based on seniority, you could earn up to 20 points additional on top of your score. And the way they did that was they would take the most senior person who took the test, they would get 20 points. And then based on number of days, there was an equation or something like that, and it would filter out from there. So I remember I took the lieutenant's test before I switched departments, and there was somebody there who we knew was retiring. He was not going to be getting promoted, but just to be a dick, took the test, took the 20 points, and ended up screwing everybody else because I would have gotten the 20 points. I was the most senior person. I ended up getting 11 points, and then not not being slotted, where I should have been. So
Did you fight him?
No.
Did you take him out onto the app bay and say, stick him up?
No, you know what I did do though?
Put him up. Put him up.
And the reason that he took this test was because I had beaten him running for president he was the president of the union for years. I had run against him.
Don't you say that it was out of spite.
Okay, then I won't say it, but it was.
I'll say it for you. What a dick.
Fred, you're looking around like you're about to tell like an off-color joke. You're like, wait a second, like looking around.
No,
he's not bitter at all. Look at him. He's not bitter.
Most of the things out of my mouth are off color, right?
Yeah, what a dick.
So that was that. My new department, which I want to look up the exact number of what it is, but I want to make sure I don't click because otherwise I'm going to get muted again. But page 12. So there is.
That's what you pay me to do.
Do we pay you?
Yeah.
No mind.
You guys are getting paid?
So at my
That
new
was a separate
department,
contract.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. So when it's time to promote here, they will let everybody know that it's time to test for the position. And then you take the test. So 40% of your score is the written test. 30% of the score is an oral interview with the current officers and the chief. 10% is your service rating, so that's all of your yearly evaluations. And then 20% of it is seniority. So it's a different way to go about it, I think. That way it's not just, I'm the best at taking a test, but I suck as a firefighter, so now I'm in charge of all of you and whatever. Or I'm the best interviewer, I suck at taking tests, so I'm able to squeak by. This way, it kind of takes a little bit of seniority into it. You have to be able to do a good interview. You have to test well. And then honestly...
Quiet.
Bye,
Freddy's
Freddy.
gone. Bye, Freddy.
And
make sure we clip
Brian.
that up. And that part we're going to clip out.
No, we're not.
The way that my organization does it is a little bit different than the way that you guys had explained. There's non-competitive promotions that we do that basically once you meet the eligibility requirements, you promote. There's time and grade that's required for that, but there's also certification. So kind of like what Doug had mentioned, there are task books for everything in my organization. Being an accredited department, we have task books for everything. If you want to be on the fire investigation unit, if you want to drive the rescue, if you want to do anything, there's a task book. And I really appreciate that because in today's generation, when people want to know how they get things done, it at least provides clarity. It is a lot of work, but it also sets expectations. So as a new officer or as a senior officer, it doesn't matter whether you're good at explaining it or not. It's written down and you just look at somebody and say, boom, there it is.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. Yeah, it seemed daunting at first, but really once you are the person that's responsible for, kind of overseeing that and looking at it. I do want to say this. The good part about some of our task books is some of those are on the call, and then some of those are simulated based, right? Because they're low frequency events. So like on the fire investigation task book, and that's for promotion. In my division, you have to do certain these things. You may not be able to testify in court, for example, on the fire marshal's office, the fire investigation unit, but I can simulate it. I can put you through the ringer, probably harder than what you would actually get in the real courtroom. So it's a either or type scenario of the way that we can do things. But going back to that, those are the non-competitives. And then kind of speaking to what Doug and Freddy said, some of those other situations are ones where we have eligibility. The process only runs a certain amount of time. Usually when we run those processes, it's for just to have certain positions open. So whether that's like driver, lieutenant, and then only for like captains and other positions above that, that's when we have vacancies, and then we do create a list. But we're a young department. I say that for company officers and above, so we don't really need those. But I've sat on plenty of assessment centers that have a variety of the systems that you guys are talking about. And what I would say is, evaluations, organizations that use evaluations and seniority that play into it. I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but those are becoming less and less popular, or less and less as far as the grading score, the ones I'm seeing on it. And the reason for that is not to downplay anything, but because as we see turnover and burnout, it doesn't hold the weight, because you don't have people. I mean, yes, seniority's there, but people are retiring much earlier in life, meaning our fire service career is becoming younger and younger. And so it doesn't have as much value. And so when you look at these promotional committees, people are like, look, I've been on the job 10 years, and you're pushing me into a captain seat because I have to fill it. So that section doesn't mean much, because it's not bringing me many points to begin with. So that's kind of where we're at. How about you, Matt?
But let me touch on the seniority thing for a second, what you just said. There's a lot of 5-7 year guys that I'd much rather work for than some of the 20 year guys.
Right.
I mean, there's a difference in being a 1 year guy for 20 years and being a 20 year guy.
Right.
So, I mean, like you said, we're hiring younger and younger, but I shouldn't say a lot, several of these younger guys that we're hiring that are coming in are full of piss and vinegar and all about the job, and much more capable fireground officers.
And I don't,
these guys that have been here forever.
And I didn't know if we wanted to kind of hang on that for a second. And if you're okay with it, Matt, I want to kind of speak to that just for a second. I think that I find value in it. There are certain positions in my division that are non-competitive as well, right? Like when I sat down across the table from my fire marshal as a fire inspector, I said, hey, how do I get to your spot? The fire marshal then was like, I don't know. And I was like, what? That's not okay. So I was going in at basically an engineer rank to a division chief, which was like a chief rank, and you don't have a roadmap, and there's no guarantee that they're not going to hire somebody from the outside, which means I'm stuck here for the next 25 years and nothing. And the question that I asked the fire chief, like 2 days before, was, Chief, what if I don't like this? Can I go back to the truck? And his response was, well, Mr. Kelly, you can go anywhere in the organization that you want to. So that was a rewind. Let's fast forward again. When I'm having that conversation, I went back to that chief after I chewed on that fat for about a week, and I said, what do you mean you don't know? Like, you don't know how you got to that position? You don't know how this was? And that's why I said what I said about the task books, because I think it brings validity. But I also think that there's value in the interview and value in the experience piece, because experience as a whole is so important. That 7-year station captain that you're fixing to promote, yes, he's relatable, but you also need the tactical experience. I sit on these assessment centers or these promotional processes, and these brand new folks that want to get promoted, if they don't have some real world application, people can die real quick in 2 to 3 minutes waiting on someone more senior who's got some experience to show up. And the question is the organization okay with that? Because we promoted someone just for the sake of promoting them. And so those task books, in my mind, validate and ensure that the answer is, we made sure that they were ready. If you seriously look at that task book and say, these are the objectives that we feel based off of frequency and risk in our community are the things that this person needs to be able to do. Can they do it? So Matt, I'll let you speak, and then what I want to go back and say, in those task books, are there tactical obligations or tactical objectives that they have to achieve? And if not, are they validated in that promotional process? Like, do you have like a
promoted at his department?
Yeah. So Matt, can you answer that? I know the answer for mine.
No, there's nothing that we have to tactically get signed off. Like you're talking about like on a call, like operationally, you have to be able to
either on a call, like as part of your task book, like in a scenario form, right? Like I said, when you get on the FIU, before I sign off on you, I'm going to simulate that before I clear you to go work a fire in the middle of the night, you're also going to simulate having to testify in a courtroom, because if I cut you loose, no one else can testify in court to that because no one else went with you. So the same thing of a station captain. If my expectation is you're going to roll, as you call it, code 3, we don't call it code 3, but you're going to roll code 3 by yourself to that call. I need to make sure that I'm okay with you doing that by yourself on behalf of this organization. So by simulation or by someone else signing you off, does your organization vet you prior to?
That's like a loaded question. I mean, there's different ranks that we could talk about. I mean, you're talking about driving. We have EVOC, Emergency Vehicle Operations Center, or something in San Bernardino we send guys to. It's actually really fun. They got like a big track in the back, and they have like fake cars they're real cars, but they're like scenario based, and they'll come out and like get in your way, and you got to make sure they pull off to the right and all this BS-ery, but it's good. And they have a whatever. Yeah. There's like a skid pan or whatever that they put water on, and you do like 360s. If you try to just fishtail a little bit. Yeah. There's cop cars out there. We do it in the fire engine.
Nice.
They have this one thing where you haul ass. Like you have to go at least 20 miles an hour or something. And the light will either turn green on the right or green on the left or something. And you have to go that way and go around the cones. And so, it just gives you like a little bit of awareness on driving the fire engine. We send our ambulance operators as well in ambulances. So that's kind of for driving. I mean, yes. Do we try to vet our guys as much as we can before we promote them or hire them? Yeah. But I mean, like we're a small department. I mean, our tests are good for a year. We typically extend it for a second year as long as there's enough qualified candidates on it. And we always try to have a list because when you pass a test, you're qualified as an actor in that position. So when I was an engineer and I passed the captain's exam, I was able to pick up sick leaves, vacation leaves, and work as an acting captain on that, and that's like invaluable experience, and it helps the department because, like you're not forcing a captain if an engineer can sign up and work the overtime. So it helps us out a lot. We're a small department. So everybody that's listening that works for a small department can probably relate to me that, if somebody calls out sick or has a vacation leave that's going to be mandoed is, it's a huge thing when you got 5 engineers. All you need is one of them to sign up and you get the day off. We do have policies in place where you can't have 2 actors in the same rank on the same day, just for whatever. You don't want to have 2 guys that are super green working, I guess. I don't know. But as far as like testing and stuff, all you got to do is you got to have time on. You got to have your captains or whatever rank classes that you're going for done. And knee pads. That's it. That's all you got to have to get promoted. I'm joking.
Go to the casting couch.
Promoted.
Says the guy that got promoted. Yeah. Mine are fresh.
Oh.
No, it's it's funny. Like during promotion season or what, there's a test coming up. Anytime a guy's going to go take a class or whatever, and I got to get this day off so I can take this class, and everybody beats them up like, I just taken the class to get promoted, huh? It's standard fire department bullshit, and it's whatever. Like I fucking hate that, but it is what it is. So yeah, classes, time on, take the test, pass it. We are trying to go towards like a little bit more of a task book. I like the task book just for like what you said, Brian. It's really like, and it's not just pencil whipping the task book. That's
right.
And that's on the captain or that's on the supervisor to not do that. And one of my chiefs who wrote we have a task book out for engineer, and there's 2 different phases. And you don't even have to take a test in order to act up as an engineer if you can pass through phase 2. And so he's got all this different criteria. You got to be able to show that you do this and that and this. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but if you can get your task book signed off, and that was one of his main things was like, don't just do it one time, show that he can do, he's competent in it, and then that one day, and then sign him off. It's like, show him, and then have them do it, and then have them teach it, and then sign it off. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a clear set of guidelines that can be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Articulated?
No, applied,
okay,
to all for truck companies, for instance. It's the same set of guidelines that can be applied to each truck company, and it's not individualized per, hey, in this district, we do things this way. Well, that doesn't change the truck standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the rescue or the tanker, whatever the case may be. What is the word I'm trying to think of? Shit, it's going to drive me crazy.
I think applied was the right word. I think that was. I want to go back and I want to go back and speak to something that Matt said and kind of Doug as well. I think when you look at those tactical, I've said on several promotions, and I've been a role player as well as like a person that handles different things in those. The tactical piece to me is pretty important. I've seen that more and more, especially at that station level, whether you're a lieutenant, captain, or even a battalion chief, because it really makes sure that those functions that Doug is struggling to find the words for are consistently being applied. So no matter...
That's it. Yeah, consistent and standardized.
Yes, the consistent and standardized practices that you as an organization want. Because I guess what I'm getting at is, Matt, like you said, if you're riding in and you're the guy that's filling in, but you're at station 1 every day and then you're going to 3 the next day, it makes sure that when you ride in at 3 the next day, whether you've been at 1 your whole career, you can equally apply the standards of radio traffic, policy, all that stuff from one to the next. And for the tactical application, you could by interview and by testing write it down, but in a scenario situation, can you actually do that in the classroom and or by task book? I've seen it done both ways. I've seen people that require the task book real world and then run them through a scenario in the promotional process. So they'll actually do like a scenario based. I've seen them everything from computerized ones where they'll put stuff up on the screen. I've seen ones where they'll have Legos built in a classroom, like a little house stuff set up, and they'll put fire trucks out. And I mean, like that doesn't get much simpler than that, right? Like scenario, say, hey, here's what you around. Yeah, moving pieces around. I've seen it to where they will take the back of a command vehicle outside with a screen and say, hey, here's what you have, and they'll evolve it. For like the BCs, because they're trying to make them more realistic to what they have. I mean, I've seen it all different ways. And I'm not saying that any of those are right or wrong, because it's all role playing in one regard or the next. But it's as realistic as possible to make sure that you're not just taking the guy with the knee pads and putting him in a position, or by saying, hey, I'm going to take the most senior guy because, quote unquote, he deserves it. And I think that what I'm fixing to say may not be popular with some. So comment and let me know what you think about this one. Is, should the senior guy get it because he's the senior guy, or should there be an expectation that we should acknowledge that the community deserves it? That's what I want to know.
My personal Doug Bishop personal opinion, I don't give a damn who it is. The appropriate person deserves a job, just like hiring new recruits.
Yeah.
I don't care about DEI. I don't care about gender. I don't care about race. I don't give a shit about none of it. Give it to the most qualified person. Period. I don't care if that's hiring new people or promoting officers. Give it to the most qualified person at the time.
And that's
the scenarios. We have command sims, which it's so hard to make believe a fire, if that's your scenario that happens to be a house fire. Sometimes it's a house fire. You might have a 150-gallon fuel leak. You might have an explosion. Who knows what your scenario is going to be for that year's promotional exam. Sure. But if it's a house fire, like, you can't make believe but so much on a computer screen. Hey, I'm doing my lap. And then they click a button and it shows you the Bravo side, the Charlie side, the Delta side. Like, all right, man, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this. Well, you can't do that because of this. Well, it's a goddamn computer screen, man. Come on.
Dude, so when I took my test, they had that where we walk in, you sit down, there's a big screen, and they show you. And I started doing my side. Well, yeah, it was like some smoke, and I started doing my size up. I hadn't even said I was going to do my 360 yet, and they start showing me all sides while I'm doing my size up. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And so I go through the whole thing, right? I do my size up. I give my first like tactics and tell my fireman to do this. The second engine comes in. Okay, you're going to do this. And then they start throwing things at me like, oh, now we just got word that there's like a dog care keeper or something in the house. And so there's possibly somebody in there. I'm like, okay. So I start trying to like hail people on the radio to like reassign them and stuff. And they couldn't give me anything because HR had interjected so much into our testing process that they said, no.
Yep.
What if another candidate doesn't say that? You can't, it has to be standardized.
Right.
And so all they could tell me was, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like I was just sitting there. I'm trying to like,
how long did your scenario run?
Oh shit. I don't know. Maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. So it's standardized because every scene is dynamic.
Right. It's that's the greatest thing about
that you and I run. We could run the same goddamn Cape Cod style house fire and yours goes completely opposite of mine. It can't be standard.
Well, and
because of if you assign the first in engine to do X and then Y happens as a result of what they did versus the third in unit doing Z and then A happens. Like everything is dynamic. That's so.
Matt, one of the things that I love.
Doing it again, Matt. Doing it again.
So one of the things. No. I'm going to give you an aspirin and ask you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, Doug. So one of the things that I love is on the ones that I've seen that I really like for the tactical piece. It is 2, 2, 2, and 5. So it's 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and that's how they do it. And so it's literally it goes.
Time.
Yeah. But the beauty of it is that it's over. I mean, everybody has 2 minutes, the first 2 minutes, and then the expectation is the battalion chief is arriving on scene within that 2 minutes, right? Yeah, that's how long it lasts.
Right. You got to. We talked about this before. You're in. I know I've talked about it at work. You're in charge for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and some of that includes your travel time because the BC's doing that same travel time. And if your department is like mine, as soon as the BC gets there, it's very seldom they're going to let you keep running the scene. Unless it's very minor. If it's a major incident, forget it. As soon as they mark on, hey, give me a CPR. Damn, Chief, hold on a minute. You ain't got out the truck yet.
Yeah. CPR, huh?
Yeah.
What's that?
You guys don't do that?
No.
Conditions, progress, and resources?
Okay, so ours can.
Oh, yeah.
Conditions, actions, needs.
Yep. Conditions, progress, and resources. That's what we call it. Yeah.
I just didn't know what you're...
Yeah, so you'll give him a 30-second, not even that long, probably 15 to 20 second. Hey, Chief, got one engine on the second floor, one engine on the first floor. Somebody's on RIC, and we're getting a good knockdown on the fire. I don't need anything. So just because they want that quick. Just spit it out, get it done, and then he's going to basically repeat everything back to dispatch for some reason. We occupy the radio too much, I think, with that kind of stuff. Like, there's no need to repeat that. But
so I know we've been going a pretty decent time here. We didn't even really do our intro, but how do we kind of want to wrap up our thoughts for this one about this podcast? Because I think it's really good, and we could probably do a part 2 on this of like how to prepare each other. Because I think one of the things with these, like we've been through them before, we've seen them, and like Matt, we talked about paying it forward down in Leland with each other. And one of the things that we can do is prepare the next person to make sure that we're right seat ready, that we have somebody that's ready for it. That could be like the part 2 of how do we prepare for that promotion. This is just trying to talk about today was just what are the promotional process. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
And it trickles down. It trickles down from the senior man to the rookie. Be a good fireman. Be a good senior fireman. That's all it takes. Be a good senior fireman. Model the way. Even if you don't want to promote. Can you hear my dog sneezing?
Yeah, I it's something.
She's reverse sneezing, and I'm like, it's just be a good senior fireman. Model the way, and the rest will take care of itself. If the guy wants to promote, cool. Encourage him and help him answer those questions he might have need answers to, and just be a good senior fireman. That trickles all the way down to the rookie, man. So then the rookie's like, hey, man, I want to be like that guy. And then something may click one day after 6 years. You know what? I want to be like lieutenant. Great. I've done my job. Answer the questions.
The only thing I'd add to Doug is I would just piggyback off it because I think everything he said is right and valid. Is the cool thing and the nice thing about promotional time is it's a good morale booster. I think it puts people into a cool spot, where they're learning, they ask a bunch of questions, you go out and train a lot, and everybody's inquiring, and so I think it's a really good time for the department because everybody's wanting to do better and learn. And one thing I was talking to somebody very recently is, when you're a fireman and you want to go up to that engineer spot. And so I started learning engineer stuff, go and take my classes. Dude, all it did was make me a better fireman. And then subsequently,
go ahead. No.
Exactly. I go for captain, and it made me a much better engineer. And I know that once I start, taking my chief's classes and all that kind of stuff, it's just going to make me a better captain. And so overall, throughout the entire department, it's a win-win-win promotional time,
To the same token, getting rookies, it refreshes everybody, especially on the engineer level, because you got to teach them how to pump it. So it keeps everybody fresh, and it keeps you updated with refreshing policies in your mind. And so same token.
Yeah. And I think that's what it boils down to. Like you said, if you're upset about anything in the promotional process, be it someone outscored you, whatever, there's self-reflection, there's unit reflection, right? There's, organizational reflection, right? Like if I, as a chief officer of a department, look back at it and say, man, why did 6 out of our 10 fail the written exam? Well, then why didn't we go around and make sure that they were ready? Why didn't I talk to the captains? Yeah. Why didn't we do this? Like, we don't set the bar lower, right? Like, that's not what we do. We go out there and say, why didn't you pass the test? What did they fail at? Look at the questions and say, that's obviously what we need to be evaluating it at. Anyways, I just think that that's one of those things where it's self-ownership. We don't get the option of bowing out when it comes to emergency response. So we shouldn't get the option of bowing out when it comes to being responsible for promotion. And I think that's
what you expect.
Oh, I love that.
You're welcome.
Put that on a cracker and eat it. Because that right there, if no truer words have been spoken on this podcast than that right there, I'm digging it.
And it comes down to everything. When I'm coaching, when you're investigating a fire, when you're supervising your guys, when Matt's supervising training, if you expect it, you got to inspect it. You got to inspect what you expect.
I love it.
Nice.
That's a good thing to end it on right there.
Yeah. Well, let's do a quick moment of silence.
Yes.
I know that we're like losing firefighters in the world. Like, I mean, just dropping like flies. I don't even want to say it like that, but it's just crazy. So we are going to do our moment of silence for everybody, for all our brothers and sisters that we lost.
Can I add on to that and do it for our disaster victims for Hurricane Helene? I know our western part of the state, I sent it in a group text while we were right here on the podcast. I'm getting texts from folks at the state that need me to call them. We're on a Sunday here. Those folks are getting hammered, and people are experiencing flooding in the mountains that have not seen damage like this since the 1940s. And then you've got to take into account Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida are just getting hammered from this storm, and people are cut off. Sam, who was on our podcast, literally has hundreds of trees. He cannot get out of his house. And he posted on his personal page, and he literally has people hiking in and out. He's okay. I mean, he has generators and he's prepared, but that just speaks to the validity of the damage and the catastrophic event that's occurring there. So not only for our first responders and the trauma that they're going to go through, but also for the people in those communities who are not used to dealing with stuff like that.
Yeah. My wife showed me a Facebook this morning. We stayed at an RV park, Mountain Stream RV Park. It's out near Asheville.
Yes.
And it was down in the little valley right by the creek, and it's gone. The entire thing's gone.
Yeah. So our hearts are with them for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Let's do it for them and every other firefighter. Amen.
All right, well said.
And shout out to our boy in Portugal. He messaged us back and said that was correct. And I think I might have got his name right.
Wow. And last things last is we are going to have already had a winner of the tumbler. So we did a prize giveaway on Instagram. And so if you missed that, there will be another one very shortly. If not, maybe even the next podcast, I'll come up with another prize giveaway. We didn't have the amount of engagement that I wanted on that Instagram post, but that's okay because we're taking baby steps towards greatness here on the Cool Fireman Podcast, brought to you by Unky Seasoning and the Burn Box. So keep listening. We love our family, our Cool Fireman Podcast family, and even though our community is small right now, each and every one of you, we value your participation.
You can have a big family, but not have the impact. It's amazing to me to see the impact that our small family is having, and I think that's what that keeps me coming back every week recording this because the faithfulness and the interactiveness. We have a group chat, and just to see the amount of people that are texting us and telling us that they're listening and the value that they're getting is what matters so much to me. And the only thing I was going to mention was if you're not subscribing to the Burn Box, please do. I think this is a month that we may have something special in the box. If not, we have one coming up in box very, very soon. So make sure that you please show some love to Tom over at the Burn Box and let him know that you like what's in there, so that way you can see that as well as any of our other guests. And please make sure that you go and follow on socials our guests and interact with them as well, because they're taking their time out to show some love to us as well.
I think next week we're going to get...
Thank you.
I think next week we're going to get Preston back on and do our baseball season recap. If you remember, we talked about that preseason. We'll get Preston back on and talk about that. And hopefully the boys can lock it up today, a win or a Diamondbacks loss, and we are in the wild card. So,
all right,
considering the injuries, I will take it.
Very nice.
Yeah. Roll it, Gigi.
Roll it, Gigi.
Before you leave, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give these firemen a huge thumbs up. Also, make sure you check out thecoolfireman.com for more. Thanks!